Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special story. Today, we are going to learn English with the life story of one of history's most powerful and fascinating men, Napoleon Bonaparte. His name still echoes across the world, even 200 years after his time. Napoleon Bonaparte was born on August 15, 1769, on the island of Corsica. Corsica had just become part of France a year before, after being under the control of the Italian state of Genoa. Napoleon grew up speaking Italian, not French. His family was not rich, but they belonged to the minor nobility, which gave him some privileges. His father, Carlo Buonaparte, worked as a lawyer and political figure. His mother, Letizia, was strong and strict. She raised her children with discipline and deep faith. As a boy, Napoleon was not like other children. He was small, quiet, and serious. He loved reading books, especially stories about ancient Rome, great warriors, and powerful leaders. While other boys played games, he imagined himself as a general leading armies. His mind was sharp, and his memory was strong. But his French language was poor, and when he went to school in mainland France, other children laughed at his accent. They called him a foreigner. They mocked him for being small and different. These painful moments did not break him. Instead, they made him stronger. He decided to prove to the world that he was not weak. He studied harder. He focused on mathematics, geography, and military history. He became skilled at strategy, learning how battles were fought and how victories were won. Slowly, the boy from Corsica built a fire inside himself. A fire that would push him to become one of the greatest generals in history. At the age of 9, Napoleon left Corsica to study in France. He went to a military academy in Brienne. Life there was not easy. He still faced insults for his accent and his origins. But he ignored the laughter. He studied discipline, organization, and the art of war. By the time he was 15, he was already dreaming of commanding soldiers. At 16, he graduated and became a second lieutenant in the French army. Imagine that. At just 16, he was already an officer. But France was in trouble. The country was full of problems. The people were angry at the king and the nobles. Hunger, poverty, and injustice filled the streets. Soon, a great revolution would shake the nation. In 1789, when Napoleon was 20 years old, the French Revolution began. The people rose against the king. They wanted liberty, equality, and fraternity. The monarchy fell. The king and queen were executed, and the old order of France was destroyed. For Napoleon, the revolution was both a danger and an opportunity. Many officers from noble families fled the country. But Napoleon, though from noble blood, stayed loyal to the revolution. He believed in order, strong leadership, and the dream of a powerful France. During this time, his talent began to shine. In 1793, when he was just 24, he led the French army in the city of Toulon against British forces. His brilliant strategy brought victory, and he was promoted to brigadier general. From that moment, people began to notice the young Corsican officer. He was not only intelligent but also fearless. He stood in battle where bullets flew, showing courage that inspired his men. In 1795, Napoleon met a woman who would change his life, Josephine de Beauharnais. She was older than him, elegant, and experienced in the world of Paris. Josephine had 2 children, and her charm attracted Napoleon deeply. He fell in love quickly. Josephine, however, was not as passionate at first, but Napoleon wrote her endless letters, full of fire and emotion. His love was intense, almost obsessive. In 1796, they married, and only 2 days later, Napoleon left to command the French army in Italy. This campaign would make him famous. France was at war with Austria and its allies. The French army in Italy was poorly equipped and poorly paid. Soldiers were tired and hungry. But Napoleon gave them something powerful: hope. He stood before them and said, "Soldiers, you are naked and hungry. The government owes you much but can give you nothing. But I will lead you to the most fertile plains in the world. Rich provinces, great cities, honor and glory will be yours." His words lit a fire in their hearts. Under his command, the army transformed. In just 1 year, Napoleon won victory after victory. He defeated Austrian forces, captured cities, and signed treaties that expanded French power. The young general became a hero of France. Newspapers celebrated him. Politicians admired him. Ordinary people saw him as the savior of the nation. After Italy, Napoleon wanted more. He dreamed of striking at Britain, France's greatest enemy. But invading Britain directly was too difficult. So he decided on another plan: to attack Egypt. By controlling Egypt, France could threaten British trade routes to India. In 1798, Napoleon led a great expedition to Egypt. It was not only a military campaign, but also a scientific one. He brought with him scholars, artists, and scientists. Together, they studied ancient monuments and discovered the famous Rosetta Stone, which later helped to unlock the secrets of Egyptian hieroglyphs. At first, Napoleon won battles on land. But at sea, the British Navy, led by Admiral Nelson, destroyed the French fleet at the Battle of the Nile. Napoleon's dream of controlling the East was broken. Still, he presented himself as victorious when he returned to France, and the people believed him. By 1799, France was in chaos again. The revolution had created hope, but also instability. Governments rose and fell quickly. Corruption spread. Ordinary people were tired of disorder. They wanted a strong leader. Napoleon saw his chance. On November 9th, 1799, he staged a coup d'état, a sudden takeover of power. With the support of the army, he forced the government to resign. A new government was created, with Napoleon as first consul, the most powerful position in France. He was only 30 years old, yet he now ruled the country. He promised peace, stability, and reform. He reorganized the laws, creating the famous Napoleonic Code, which influenced legal systems across the world. He improved schools, rebuilt the economy, and brought order to France. People loved him. He was not just a general anymore. He was the leader of a nation. In 1804, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French. This moment shocked Europe. Traditionally, kings and emperors were crowned by the Pope, symbolizing the power of the Church. But Napoleon took the crown in his own hands and placed it on his own head. It was a message to the world. His power came from himself, not from tradition or religion. Under his rule, France became the strongest country in Europe. He built a vast empire, winning battles across the continent. His enemies joined together in coalitions, but again and again, Napoleon defeated them. At the Battle of Austerlitz in 1805, he faced the combined armies of Russia and Austria. Outnumbered, he used brilliant strategy to divide and crush them. It became his greatest victory, and people called it the Battle of the Three Emperors. Europe trembled before him. Kings feared him. Nations obeyed him. Napoleon seemed unstoppable. But pride can blind even the greatest men. Napoleon wanted more. He tried to break Britain by creating the Continental System, a blockade that stopped European countries from trading with the British. But the plan failed. Smuggling continued, and Britain grew even stronger. Then, in 1812, Napoleon made a terrible mistake. He invaded Russia with an army of over 600,000 men. At first, he expected a quick victory, but the Russians retreated, burning their villages and food supplies as they went. Napoleon's army marched deeper and deeper into the frozen land, with no shelter and little food. When winter came, disaster struck. The cold was unbearable. Horses died, soldiers starved, disease spread. The once great army of Napoleon collapsed. Only a fraction of his men survived. It was one of the greatest disasters in military history. Europe saw that Napoleon was not invincible. His enemies rose against him again. In 1814, after years of war, Napoleon was finally defeated. The Allies entered Paris. He was forced to give up the throne. They sent him into exile on the small island of Elba off the coast of Italy. But Napoleon was not finished. Less than a year later, he escaped from Elba and returned to France. When he landed, soldiers sent to arrest him joined him instead. People cheered his name. Once again, he took power. This period became known as the 100 Days. But his enemies united quickly. In 1815, at the Battle of Waterloo in Belgium, Napoleon faced the British and Prussian armies. It was his last gamble. Despite his skill, the battle was lost. His empire was finished. After Waterloo, Napoleon was captured and sent far away to the lonely island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. There, surrounded by the sea and watched by guards, he spent the last years of his life. He wrote his memories, defended his legacy, and dreamed of the past. On May 5th, 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte died. He was only 51 years old. Far from France, far from the glory he once knew, he ended his days as a prisoner. Yet his story did not end with his death. Napoleon changed the world. His Napoleonic Code shaped laws in Europe, Latin America, and beyond. His military strategies are still studied in schools around the world. His rise from a poor boy in Corsica to Emperor of France showed the power of ambition, talent, and determination. Today, his name remains one of the most famous in history. Napoleon Bonaparte, a man who dreamed like no other, who rose higher than most, and who fell harder than all.